All right. So in the morning motivation, I have put something. I mean, there is this wonderful economist. I'm a huge fan of his. He's the CEO of Small Finance Bank Limited. You can find him on LinkedIn. His name is Asim Baru. Another guy that I really follow is Rajan Singh. So you can probably follow them. So one of the quotes, or one of the written portions that he is recently published. I've just published it for you, and basically talks about that. I mean, all of us in general try to avoid, and it's human nature that we try to avoid any kind of pain, be it physical, emotional, mental. But at the same point of time, it is that pain we know, especially when we say physical pain, until unless it is imposed because of health or something else, it is going to transform us. These are things that are there. Then he also talks about the fact that, just a second, we also at times, let me show it to you. That will be great. Yeah. And let me just share my screen as well. Just a second. I think my screen should come now. Yes. So if you see, this is what he has written. He has talked about that all of us try to run away from any kind of unpleasant nature of things, and there are pains, there are physical pain, emotional pain, intellectual pain, when our ego is hurt, and some of which is genetic, or it's related to health, which we at times we have no control. And there are physical pains that come because of losing people, and it has a defined cause as well. So but at the same point of time, whenever whatever we are having, if we are stressed, what happens is that our heart starts to pump really hard, and then it tries to force a lot of blood into our hands and into our face, and all of that basically turns the increase of flow of glucose in the blood. But all of this is preventable. Now, what he says is that we suffer more in our imagination than in reality. Now, at times we worry too much about things, that what will happen if this thing doesn't work out, if that thing doesn't work out, अगर ये होगा तो ये हो जाएगा. At times, even people's action, you might have seen in your own lives, that someone said you something, maybe a friend of yours gave you a very sarcastic comment, or a very vitriol kind of a comment, and your entire day got wasted because you were thinking of either coming back at him or her, और आपके दिमाग में बस वही चीज़ चले जा रही है. The same thing happens at your home as well. If you have a fight with your siblings, for the next 2-3 hours, rest assured, what happens is that the brain works in such a way that everything, your entire focus becomes on that. And this is what he says, that we have to release ourselves from this kind of bondage and this kind of ruminating and recycling, and we can't just keep hitting our head against this wall, because all of this is self-inflicted. So, and the best line that I found was that we suffer more in our imagination than in our reality. And at times, what happens is that years down the line, when we see these things, when we listen to all of us, and when we see that this is what was troubling us, we realize that this was not worth it. So this is something that you should take stride in, that let things go at times. There's another article that I'll post today from Rajun Singh that will also give you a similar kind of perspective. It's about UPSC, because he was a former IPS officer. So you can start your day with that. Now let's move on to meditation, folks. Now from tomorrow onwards, I would expect you to have your cameras on, folks, so that at least you're not sleeping at 5 a.m. The idea is to you should be you should be awakened properly. And if you're planning to put your alarm at 4:45 and planning to come at 5 for the class, I think that's not going to be very productive, to be very honest with you. You have to have at least a 40 or to 45-minute window before you actually start the entire session. So and one way to do that is that I've told you in previous sessions, in the previous sessions as well. One thing that you can do is have freshen up and do brush before coming for the session. That will give you a signal to your brain that it's time to wake up. If you're coming without freshening up and without brushing, it will not give you that signal. The best thing is maybe to bathe as well, but again, that depends on various circumstances. The other thing that I typically do, and I also suggest a lot of people, is that if you are feeling really sleepy, then probably do for you maybe 10 push-ups would be there. For me, someone like me, 50 push-ups. And there is no way on the planet that if I do 50 push-ups, I am sleeping for the next 1 hour. So these you can just fool your body into believing that this is the time to rise and to be very active. And the idea is to use this time from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, when the entire world is just getting ready. It's your time to ace that 3 hours, and this is the time where no one will disturb you. Any fight, anything that you have had in your previous day would have had a shutdown, would have had a closure. Don't think about anything and then start studying. The other thing that I expect you to do is in the morning. That's why I've stopped sending this on a WhatsApp. Earlier we used to send these links on WhatsApp. The problem with WhatsApp is the moment that you open a WhatsApp, there are other chats there, and these all these apps are designed in such a way that you become addictive to that. Therefore, what we have done is we have provided it in the Google Classroom link, so that that interface towards the WhatsApp is reduced. And for these golden hours, make sure that you keep your phone separate. What if there's anything important, it will come to you, but till 9 o'clock, till the time that you are having your first sitting, make sure that you do not use your mobile phones. Now with this, let us start with meditation. We'll meditate for 5 minutes, and as I told you, the template of meditation is just focus on your breath. I don't expect you to be yogis, but at the same point of time, just focusing on breath is not a very hard challenge. If you want to use any kind of music, you can use that as well. But just 5 minutes, close your eyes. Initially you will get thoughts, you will get 10 types of thoughts, but the idea is to reduce those 10 types of thoughts and just focus on nothing except for your breath. So let's start for 5 minutes, and then we'll move on to our journal as well as our current affairs of the previous day. Let's come back. Please write down your journal, folks. This month on, I will send you the journal. So a typical journal, dated journal, you should all have it. And for some of you, it's already named because of the previous batch, but I couldn't send it to you. Please write down now. Now, as I told you, the format should be what are your targets for the entire day. So if you're studying for say 6 hours, what 4 subjects that you're studying, exactly what you are planning to do in those. Then whatever issues that you might have faced in the previous day, things that are troubling you, write down that, and end on a good note, which is a gratitude towards your life. What are the things that are good in your life, and make sure that you also reflect on the previous day while you are writing the fresh page, that how much you have completed. That will give you an assessment of how you are planning, how well you are planning, and how is your execution. So planning is not a major problem. The problem becomes execution. So please write it down. Alright folks, so we will now see yesterday's newspaper. Now, as I told you, we will directly jump on to, and there are a lot of students who tell me that can we clear it in the first attempt? You see Srishti Dabas here, first attempt with a job, clearing the paper. So it's all possible, it's all in your head. Now let's move on to the meat of the newspaper, folks. As I told you, hit the spot immediately, and then if you're left with time, then cover ancillary issues. Now, if there is anything which is important in the nation, it will come in the editorials. Now, first is a fitting frame. Now, you might have seen that the honorable Prime Minister went to Italy for the G7 summit, and he was having a center stage during the photo ops. Now, the opposition has also kind of accused him. I mean, the opposition has now been rekindled by the fact that they have come with a larger strength, but at the same point of time, this is an idiotic comment to make, that he said taking center stage. But if you see, I mean, there's a very beautiful line that the paper has quoted. Among the G7 countries, the only one who is a strong leader right now is the Prime Minister of Italy, which is Meloni. Apart from that, everyone else is facing a real hard election at home. Joe Biden is trailing. Justin Trudeau is very unpopular. Rishi Sunak in all likelihood will lose on the 4th of July. Then you have Emmanuel Macron and Olaf Scholz, who are basically being targeted by a resurgent right in their at their homes, and even the PM of Japan, Fumio Kishida, has also had poor ratings. So apart from Meloni, all the other six are being called as Meloni and the six lame ducks. Now, lame duck is a concept that you will understand in polity as well. Someone who is still in power, but I mean, it is almost certain that that person is going to lose the election. So or be replaced. That is called a lame duck in polity. And among that, the Indian Prime Minister comes as a light of beacon, in the sense that he's won a third mandate, and that too a very good mandate. It's not a very fractured mandate that we had. Apart from the fact that India's GDP and India's diplomatic currency in the world has increased in the last few years, and economically we're going to become the third largest economy by 2027. So which shows that how much pride, I mean even the West is putting a lot of emphasis on India, because India is the only country that right now stands in the Asian continent to challenge the hegemony of China. So therefore, the role of India becomes extremely important. And if you read this, that the entire Western allies need India for the global South, and India is also become a champion of global South, especially with the kind of things that it has done, even at G20. So at G20 they said it should become G21, with African Union countries becoming a part of it, and it called these developing countries on board as well. So that is where India is a champion of the global South, and the West also needs Delhi for this kind of relationship. Then comes the skill gap. Now, this is a very good article. In fact, I want you to take a note of this, because all across the country during elections we were talking about caste census, we were talking about religious census, the reservations. But here comes a chief minister who says that what we need is actually a skill census, where we need to see that what are the skills that the existing population has, and for them to be employed, what kind of skills are to be required. So this is a wonderful step, especially looking at, there is a data point, especially people who are writing mains. If there's a question on unemployment, you cannot write a question on unemployment without mentioning the periodic labor force survey. Now, in course of time, or maybe in the crash sessions that we'll have on econ, I will tell you about. In fact, in optional we talk about this. The data that comes from periodic labor force survey. It's an annual data that comes. In fact, it also comes quarterly. But the annual data that comes basically talks about the unemployment that is there in the country. And among the unemployment, what is the most important category is 15 to 29 category, which is the youth. And we see huge amounts of unemployment in this particular category. For example, in Andhra, around 16% of youth in this age group are unemployed, whereas the national average is around 10%. And even more important is unemployment rate among graduates, because the higher you try to educate, or you educate yourself, there are likely jobs that you can get, but you will not be willing to do. For example, for me, to maybe drive an Uber right now, it's something which is a little far fetched. Maybe pushed to the corner. Maybe I can, but in general, I would not prefer it. So the higher that you go, a lot of jobs you will say that I don't want to work in these particular jobs. So therefore, the unemployment rate in the graduates is also very high, and this is something which is concerning India. In fact, the Ministry of Skill and Entrepreneurship talks about the dual challenge of we have a paucity of highly trained workforce, as well as non-employability of large section of educated youth who do not have skills. So just because you are coming out of college doesn't mean that you have the required skill for the jobs. Apart from the fact, there's a huge challenge that is going to come your way, especially people like you, that is going to be coming your way, which is coming up of the AGI, artificial general intelligence. Now, you might have heard about AI, you might have heard about GPTs, but this is the new thing that might come by the end of the year, which is going to replace a majority of these regular jobs. And it's absolutely mind-boggling that the general intelligence will bring onto course of employment. Now, what will eventually happen is that it will be like a chatbot which can answer anything to everything, and once you give it a video version, you can ask it to say anything. So I mean, a lot of jobs will be wiped out because of that, and we need to be ready with all of these changes. So we need to train our skill, our workforce with respect to handling these challenges as well. So we have a huge even the NCAR talks about that there's a skilling paradox that we have dwindling opportunities in agriculture, but at the same point of time, much of the potential jobs in manufacturing and services, people really do not have the right kind of skills. So that kind of duality that we need a course correction in our education system. Then there's an article. I would like you to ignore this article, reversing a black sliding, because it basically talks about a lot of elections. Not really fun, but still, if you want to read it, he's a good writer. You can read this article. But the article that I really liked, and I want you to mention this in your and take a note of this for your ethics or essay, and perhaps this is the one of the best examples of how to write an essay. Now, this article talks about that there is an incentive oath being given in Amazon warehouses, where Amazon employees are being told that you will not take a water break or a toilet break until unless your targets are met. Now, this is capitalism at its peak, whereby it is incentivizing the employees to even work harder, not to have their basic rights, but to trick them into a way of attaining certain kind of target which is for the company. And again, why I want you to read this article and keep this article as a benchmark for your essay is because this is how you can create your article. Now, this article talks about a lot of stuff that is going in the current affairs. So all of that with respect to your Swiggy and all of your gig economy. It also talks about a couple of books. So when you are writing an essay, make sure, even if you have not read books, there are good books that you should study and you should read. And what you can do is you can get anecdotes from ChatGPT. Ask GP to give me an anecdote on different issues, and it will go into that book. It has all the knowledge. It will go into that book and it will create that anecdote for you, which you can use in your essay. That is how you apply AI to your prep of essay making, even for your ethics as well. As I was telling some of you who had talked to me yesterday with respect to writing mains this year, that make sure in the next 15-20 days your ethics is over, and each particular topic that is given in ethics, you've created a 2-pager or a 1-pager on that. And then an added factor, what will you add in terms of anecdotes, in terms of case study, in terms of current affairs to that particular thing. And do the 10 years properly, the last 10 years, as well as see the toppers copies of the last 2-3 years. So that is how you build your preparation if you're going for a civil services prep. And be it any other exam, this is the way that you should also, be it any exam, this is the way you should approach it. So what you will see is an anecdote or a quotation from Ruchir Sharma, and then it ends at a very witty note, where you talk about that don't forget to offer water. This is something, this is the kind of essay that will blow away the examiner, and the examiner will be forced to give you somewhere around 140 to 150 marks, because of the fact that, as I told you yesterday, wit and humor is the highest form of intelligence. And if you can maintain your your entire composure, and if you are able to produce something like this in a high pressure examination, that shows you are way above the par. So this was about it. Let's talk about the article. What the article says is that in such a in such heat, what these gig economy platform or platform workers or platforms are saying, that please offer water to whoever comes to your home, whether it's Blinkit, Zomato, Zepto, and Swiggy's. And but what are they doing for their partners? They do not have any kind of hazard pay, and these companies are earning because of the innovation, but the innovation proceeds are not shared with the people who are actually at the ground level. In fact, Swiggy is coming with a IPO very soon. Now then, apart from that, if you see the payoff, and this is the kind of inequality that has been created in capitalism. In capitalism, we'll talk about in this article that what has happened is we have consolidation of a few companies, then we have also socialization of losses and inequality. These are three things that have gone. So whenever you're arguing, and this is a wonderful, I'm talking about from the second this part of the article. What is wrong with capitalism? A it is the profits are being taken by a few, so that's where you see the inequality in the society, and few companies are becoming extremely strong. For example, companies like Meta, Alphabet, your this thing, Elon Musk companies are becoming supranational entities. And at the same point of time, whenever there is an economic downfall, or whenever there is a crisis, because these companies are too big to fail, these banks are too big to fail, the costs have been shared by the society at large. So the society at large faces the bailouts and the bad regulation, and we have inequalities in the society. And the implication of that is will be seen, in long term will be seen, not just politically, socially, but even economically. So that is where capitalism is going wrong. And talking about these companies easily say that we are offering a partnership model, because in terms of a partnership model, what happens is they can undercost their labor costs and ask the partners to work even longer. For example, in Uber, the Uber driver, if you have ever asked an Uber driver why is he working so hard, because of the fact that he has taken a loan on that particular car and then he's driving that car. And that's why a lot of people now have shifted to a different car, which is a car provider, which is Blue Smart, where you don't have to own the car, the cars are owned by the company. But again, there is a different kind of exploitation in that model as well. But at the end of the day, what I mean the all these companies are nowhere close to what Henry Ford was. Henry Ford used to say that any worker who's working in my factory should be able to afford what the product that he or she is making. Therefore, a worker in Henry Ford's company would be able to afford a Henry Ford car. But can we say that a person who's earning 10 to 13,000, 15,000 per month will be able to afford much of the products that are being sold on Amazon? No. So that means that there are problems here. At the same point of time, our labor codes, again something that you should be aware of. There are 4 labor codes that the government brought about. One labor code was brought about in 2019, 3 were brought about in 2020. These 4 labor codes had consolidated all the labor laws, 52 labor laws that were there in the country, but they have not been notified, because labor is a subject which comes under the concurrent list of the constitution. So you need to have states on board to implement the labor codes. Now these labor codes have not been implemented. The other thing is that the gig economy workers, this is a wonderful line that you should note, that gig economy workers may have work but they do not have jobs. This point hits you hard, that there's a difference between work and a job. And the right side economists would say that once the economy grows, and there will be some trickle down at the bottom of the pyramid. But at the same point of time, we have to understand there is a thing called constitution, where you have equality and dignity placed as fundamental rights. So we can't wash away with those as well. So this is a beautiful article that I want you to read. The other article is a chance to reach out. Now, this is again an article, something similar to what we had studied yesterday, about India's diplomatic frontier in its neighborhood. And again, it talks about the fact that Indian economy is probably going to be the third largest economy in the upcoming years. But then it talks about each and some countries in detail. For example, whenever you are analyzing a country, I again want you to use GPTs here very frequently. So see what are the areas in which we have cooperation, what are the areas in which we have conflict, what are the areas in which we have global commons. For example, what are our economic relationship, what are our political relationship, what are the issues or concerns that we have with each of our partners. Then apart from that, are there anything that we are cooperating on global commons. Then in terms of projects, what are the kind of projects that we are having. For example, the article talks about Bangladesh, that our trade with Bangladesh has exceeded a lot. From somewhere around 5 billion to now 15-16 billion. At the same point of time, we have sorted out a lot of territorial issues through land border agreement of 2015. But again, there are issues that are still lingering, something like the Tista water sharing dispute. And then apart from the fact that Bangladesh is very cautious of what is happening on the Indian front when it comes to CAA and the Uniform Civil Code, because it impacts a lot of its own citizens who are basically coming to India or living in India. So that is another thing. And we kind of target Bangladeshis when we are talking about CAA. So this is something that is there. Then apart from that, Pakistan, we have already talked about the fact that we are saying that the trade and talks and trade, talks and terror cannot go hand in hand. So that has been our this thing. Nepal, again, we have increased the trade, but at the same point of time, because of what had happened in 2015-16, you should be aware of what has happened in 2015-16. We had put blockades, and there was a diplomatic fallout there. And then China gained a huge footstep in the domestic politics of Nepal at that point of time. Then Bhutan, again, we had talked about yesterday. Then it talks about that what kind of relationships that we can have. There are different partnerships that we have, even in South Asia. So you should be aware of what South Asia is, what Southeast Asia is, what East Asia is, what West Asia is. So all of these terms are very important, folks, in terms of international relations. So all the countries that comes under South Asia, you should be aware of. So in South Asia, we have multiple agreements. For example, we have a BIMSTEC agreement, which talks about multi-sectoral technical and economic cooperation. Then we have Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal motor vehicles agreement for connectivity. And apart from that, we have other neighborhood things like security concerns that we are trying to solve as well. So this article talks about all of these aspects. So you should ideally, for your mains, have a write-up of relationship with each of our neighbors and each of the major partners that India has. But again, I'm emphasizing that to you, that please see the last 10 years from 2013 till 2023. What are the kind of questions that have come in a year, and similar kind of questions will come for the next year as well. So you should be prepared for all of this. Then another article, we'll talk about this. Don't put justice on hold. Now, again, a wonderful article from the point of view of constitution and from the point of view of polity. Now, the Minister of Law and Justice has recently announced a national litigation policy. Now, this is not the first time that I've heard about national litigation policy. when I was an aspirant way back in 2009 2010, there was this national litigation policy that came that time as well. Why? Because if you see, the government of India is a major litigator, and the 4 crore cases that we have which are pending, the government of India is basically a litigant in most of them. So the government says that we need to reduce the high legal cost and reduce the number of cases in which the government is a party, so that the load of cases is reduced. Now, apart from that, what has also happened I mean, what Indira Jaising, she's a very famous senior advocate in the Supreme Court, and other courts as well. But what she says is that from the 1st of July, when the new legal codes will come. So what has happened is we had 3 codes for our entire criminal side of justice system. One is called as the IPC. Now IPC is basically a substantive law. Now what happens with the substantive law? It talks about that what will happen if you do certain crime, what will be the punishment that you will get in case of crime A, in case of crime B, in case of crime C. So it tells you what the Indian Penal Code tells you. It basically substantiates crimes and tells us that what behavior is criminal and what behavior is not criminal. That's called a substantive law. And then you have a procedural law, which was the erstwhile CRPC, Criminal Procedure Code. Now what it says is that even the Article 21 of the Constitution says that no person shall be deprived of life and liberty except for procedure established by law. So anyone who has done a criminal act needs to be prosecuted through a proper procedure, and that procedure is basically guided by the Procedural Act, which is the CRPC. Now these 2 acts are being replaced by the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So these are the 2 acts, and the third thing that happens in case of criminal acts is the Evidence Act, which is being replaced by the Suraksha Adhiniyam, Bharatiya Suraksha Adhiniyam. So these 3 acts forms the basis of any criminal jurisprudence. Now the issue is now, so I've talked about all of these issues here. Now the issue is that the substantive law, if you see, the substantive law cannot be retrospective. You suppose I do something today. Tomorrow the government cannot make up a law and say that now because of this law you did a crime yesterday. So any substantive law cannot be retrospective, but procedural laws can be retrospective as well. Now what will happen is that after coming of this new Nyaya Sanhita, now there might be cases where the Nyaya Sanhita, the new criminal procedure code, will be adversarial or will be harmful for someone who's being prosecuted, and that will lead to further delays in the justice system, because you can apply the old criminal procedure law, but now you are applying the new criminal procedure law. Therefore some people will say that no, it should not be applied to me, and this will add to the burden of the already burdened judiciary, leading to delays. Then apart from that, there are other things that are problematic. For example, sedition, article section 124A. The Supreme Court had stayed and challenged the application of sedition, and it has been repackaged under section 152 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, as I told you, the new IPC, and it had made new references. Now it has become much more virulent. It says that anything which is against the sovereignty and integrity of India will also be counted as this kind of sedition. It doesn't use the word sedition, but it actually has the same offenses. So any ordinary riot can also be elevated to that. Again, FIR, which the Supreme Court had said that should be is mandatory for any cognizable offence if it's disclosed. The Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, which is the new CRPC, says that after only a preliminary inquiry of a cognizable offense. And if the punishment is for 3 years and not or more but less than 7 years, only in that case you should first do a preliminary inquiry and then file an FIR. Then what will happen is that this process of filing the FIR becomes very extremely tough now, because it is now you are giving the power to the police to file the FIR or not, which the Supreme Court had actually said that you have to file a FIR in case of a cognizable offense. Then apart from that, the provision of UAPA have also been incorporated into the act, into the new law, whereby now for the same offense a person can be prosecuted under two different laws, one by the NIA and the other by the local police. So all of we what we need is a judicial audit in terms of what is going to be the impact of all of these the laws that we are trying to implement. What is the going to be the impact of that on the judiciary and on the pendency of cases. So that is why this article becomes extremely important. Now, people who are interested in Naveen Patnaik can read the last article of the page, but I will move on to first the explain page and then I will move on to the economy page. Now, first of all, Joshi Mutt and Kosi Yakutoli, these two the names for these two are being changed now. You should be aware about the fact, first of all, there is this renaming that is going to be done, which is going to the idea for that is basically to have that cultural revival and link it to Indian nationalism. Now, Joshi Mutt will be renamed as Jyotir Mutt, and the Kosiya Koti Kotoli will be renamed as Kenchi Dham Ashram. Now, this you might have heard about the Neem Karoli Baba, who had set up this ashram in 1962, and one of I mean. It has been during that time a lot of famous people used to come there. For example, Steve Jobs spent considerable amount of time under Neem Karoli Baba, and at that point of time, even Professor Ramdas from Howard University had also, even Facebook CEO. Yeah. I mean, I would urge you, whenever you get time, even I have not been there, but if you get time, visit this particular place. A lot of famous people have gone there. Apart from that, Jyoti Mutt, it is this is where it was being set up in the 8th century by Adi Shankaracharya, who basically established this to for Advaita Vedanta philosophy. And basically it is said that whoever comes to Jyotir Mutt comes, you get a divine knowledge of and you get that divine light. And what this would do, it would also increase tourism into that place. But at the same point of time, we need to check tourism in such places, because Joshi Mutt was also in news because of it's in an ecological sensitive region, and there were massive cracks that developed for in hundreds of buildings last year because of land subsidence. So this is an article that you can read. The other article is Home for Cheetahs. Now, folks, as I told you, when you are studying geography, there is a book called Prem Patel which talks about each particular river in the country. Now, what I want you to do when you are doing geography, I want you to take a map, basically a political map of the country, and then draw these river systems. For example, you will draw one map for the river system of Ganges, one map for Yamuna, another map for Brahmaputra. Then you will have maps for Narmada, and then you would have map for Krishna, Kaveri. So all these Godavari, so all these major river systems that we have, you will create separate maps where you will create all of its tributaries, and whatever a wildlife sanctuary, elephant sanctuary, or tiger reserve, biodiversity park, whatever comes in that particular, because a river, whenever there is a river, there will be all these sanctuaries. Animals cannot live without that, so you need to mention all of that. Any particular dam that is there, what are the boundaries. At times river make boundaries of multiple states, so you need to know that as well. So that is where I want you to do that effort. If required, I'll show you what I had done as an aspirant. I had created all these, I have created a map copy of my own, and I used to write on that itself. So that is how your, and if you see every year in prelims there will be one or two questions which will be on the river system, which will be there on these parks. Now you might have heard about the introduction of cheetah from Namibia and South Africa that were introduced last year in the Kuno National Park. So you should first know what Kuno National Park is, what are the kind of rivers that pass through it, what are the kind of animals that are there. Now what we are doing is we are creating another park for cheetahs, which is the Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary, which is on the on the river. Where is it? Mm, just a second, folks. I missed the river somehow. Cannot be. Where is the river? Did I miss it? Chambal River, yes. Chambal River. So what Chambal River does, it basically divides this entire region into two parts. One is the Nimanch side of it, and the other is, I think, is called as the again need to check what the other side is. But there is other side of it as well. So what we are doing is that this part of Chambal is basically where the Chambal River is cutting the sanctuary into two equal parts, and the topsoil is very shallow, and there are open grassland there. There are trees, shrubs, and deciduous forests and shrubs, which it is being said is the perfect ground for cheetahs, because it is very similar to Masai Mara, which is the wilderness that is there in Kenya, and where a lot of these cheetahs thrive. So at the same point of time, it is being said that this can be even extended if we have cooperation from Rajasthan, and there is a Bhens Road God sanctuary that is there. You can see this, and there is the other side is basically Mandsaur. So if there is cooperation from them, then you can also have extension of this particular sanctuary, wildlife sanctuary. Now one of the major issues that is there is that, is there sufficient food that is available for cheetah habitat. Now cheetah is a carnivorous animal which usually hunts in packs. Male cheetah kills in a pack of 3 to 5, and on an average the female feline actually kills, is roaming alone if it's not with its litter. Now what you need is, the prey animals to be there. You need elongates, you need cheetahs, black bucks, chinkaras, because these are the prey base that is required for these 5 to 7 families if they have to be relocated to this particular place. Apart from the fact, there are other challenges that will be faced, is that it is not going to be the only predator in the area. You have leopards there, you have sloth bears, striped hyenas, grey wolves, jackals, jungle cats. All of them are going to compete for the same prey base, so sufficient prey base is a mandatory requirement. Apart from that, the highway and the human settlement pass right outside the boundary of Gandhi Sagar. So the right side of Gandhi Sagar is where you have a lot of settlement, but here the river acts as a natural barrier, so that is something that can be used. So this is the other article that you can read, and the third article is a way to predict El Nino and La Nina. Now you should know what ENSO is. So what happens is that uh, there is this concept called El Nino and La Nina. Now there is a concept also called as El Nino South oscillation. Now if you see the map of the world, you will see that the Pacific Ocean, especially the southern Pacific Ocean, it is On the right side, basically the eastern side of the Pacific Ocean, you have South America. On the western side of the Pacific Ocean, you have Indonesia, Australia, all of these countries. Now, what happens is, in the regular time frame, what happens is that there is an ocean current and there is a wind flow. What happens is that the water flows, warm water flows from Indonesian coast down to Antarctica, and then it moves on to South America, and then it completes the circle through the equatorial route towards back towards the Indonesia. So it's a kind of a circle that happens in terms of ocean currents. The winds also take a similar route. Winds usually flow from cold. So what happens is, on the South American coast there is cold water, and on the Indonesian coast there is warm water, and winds move from high pressure to low pressure. So you have high pressure near the shores of South America, and you have low pressure near the shore of Indonesia. Winds will flow from South America towards Indonesia, and this concept actually brings rainfall to India as well. Now, if you have strengthening of this concept, if this water at in the areas of Indonesia are extremely warm, and the waters in the area of your South America are extremely cold, the wind system becomes extremely strong, the ocean currents become extremely strong, and this phase is called as La Nina. This is called as the cool phase. At times what happens is, and in the last 2 years this was happening, what happens is that this system weakens a lot, and instead of getting cold water on the South American coast, what we get is warm water in the South American coast, and that leads to reversal of the wind flow, or weakening, not reversal but the weakening of the wind flow, which basically is called as the El Nino phase, the warm phase, and then you have the neutral phase. So and if there is an El Nino phase, what happens is that you have forest fires in Australia and in Indonesia. You have failed monsoon in case of India as well. Now you have new model, which is basically a Bayesian convoluted neural network. It's an AI model using machine learning, and this Bayesian system basically updates data as and when it comes, and it is able to predict the cycle of El Nino and La Nina 15 months in advance. So this is the new development that has happened in terms of science. Then people who are interested in chilies can read this particular article, especially because of the fact that certain Korean foods have recently been banned by Denmark, because they have risk of acute poisoning. So maybe for fun you can read this particular article, and why birds and other mammals, birds do not can eat chilies like candies, but not humans. So you can read this article for fun there. Then last 1 minute folks, 2-3 things. You can read this article, why there should be continued public investment for inclusive inclusive growth. This basically article talks about the fact that you still need government investment to be there. Yes, the private sector is picking up, but still government needs to be the major player when it comes to investment. The other article is FPO and IPO rush. 56 companies plan to raise over 90,000 crore rupees because of the strong fundamentals that have been shown in the market, and a lot of this is going to be oversubscribed. So which shows that people are investing, especially domestic investors are going to invest in the country. Then you have just a second. And last article that I want you to read is government looks at tax rate cut to boost demand and trigger private investment. Now what has happened is that, yes, the GDP numbers that we have been receiving is good, but what is problematic is that the national data shows that the private final consumption expenditure, which is basically a window into how much consumption the Indian consumer is doing, is going down. So, and the growth rate of private final consumption expenditure in 2023-24 is around 4%. And apart from this thing, what needs to be done is rationalization of taxes so that people can actually spend more. And if we see this article talks about the fact there is a huge marginal jump in the tax rate, because at 5 lakh at 3 lakh income, you pay only 5% tax, but when it goes to 15% you pay 30% tax. So your income increased by 5%, but your tax increased by 6 times. So this is something which is very strange, and we are talking about reduction of these taxes. Then another article that you can read is flagging need for Russia to be in. India opts out of the Ukraine declaration. Now there was this Swiss peace summit, which is basically discussion of the end game of the entire thing that is that is happening in the Russia Ukraine war. But since we are a strategic partner of Russia, because of our reliance of defense ties that we have, also because of the ties that we have for oil needs, we have opted out for it. But at the same point of time, we need to have Russia on the board if we have to have a meaningful solution to this entire problem. And this is basically the Swiss peace summit. You can read about that. So just a second, folks, let me just stop presenting. And yes, so folks, this was all about this was all about our today's session. Now again, what we are going to do tomorrow is that for tomorrow we are going to talk about a little bit of health. So as I told you, we are also going to focus on health as well. So we are going to talk about diets. We are going to talk about how you can customize your own diet. I'll give you a Excel sheet. You can feed in your own numbers in terms of what your target is, whether you want to gain weight, whether you want to reduce weight, and some kind of fitness regime that I want you to instill into your entire day. So make sure that that aspect of your life, which a lot of aspirants ignore, a lot of students ignore, you're taking care of it. As I often tell you that God has given you a Ferrari. Put the best kind of octane fuel in it. There is something called a high octane fuel. Put the right kind of fuel in it. Do not put cheap motor oil into a Ferrari. So that is the intention with which we will start our session tomorrow, and I wish you all the best for having a great day today. Thank you very much, folks. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.